Hi, today we're going to talk about how to use influencer marketing and social media to increase the credibility and reach of your marketing campaigns. So when I think about influencer marketing, to me it's really sort of a strategic way of doing word-of-mouth marketing. Finding out who your audience is, who they listen to and who shapes their buying decisions, and then how to get those people who are influential to them to engage with your brand in a positive way. When you think about what you do when you're going through the buying process, you probably don't think of it as a consumer as going through the buying process, but when you're going to buy a new car or a new bike, any other product, electronics, you might ask friends. You might look at the website of the products that you're interested in. You're probably not going to seek out marketing materials that talk about how awesome these various products are. You might go to Consumer Reports and kind of look at the comparisons. But study after study shows that when people that we know and trust tell us about their experiences with a brand or with a product, that's a big part of what influences our buying decisions in ways that our direct marketing and social media channels that are from a company just can't do. So I really have two goals when I work with influencers, and one is to increase the credibility, which is what I was just describing, because I can, as a marketer, say anything I want, and there's an upper limit to the amount of influence that's going to have on someone's buying behavior. But if someone that they trust, someone in the industry who's known to be reliable, says those same things about my brand, it's going to have a much greater impact. The other goal is that if that person talks about my brand or talks about our products, they can reach a whole lot of people that I wouldn't be able to reach just because their audience is could be larger. They could have more people who follow them on social media. Or it might be that they have an audience that's sort of deeper, right? So this is someone who's not famous, but maybe in this really particular area, they might know a lot about oxygen sensors for cars, and that's who everyone listens to who buys oxygen sensors for cars. So they might have this small niche where they were really, really well trusted. And one of the things that I think has been interesting for me, because Thomson Reuters generally, where I work, does what I'd call B2B business. So we are a business that sells to other businesses. And in doing that, we expect that our customers do a lot of research and ask around and go through a long process. And I've always been a little bit jealous of companies who do social media for consumers. So if I was working for Nike or Coca-Cola, that seems like a lot more fun, right? But other than Nike and Coca-Cola, and even with Nike sometimes, consumers are doing more and more research and not treating the relationship, but acting a lot more like business-to-business customers. So when they are doing that research, you want to make sure that the results that they're finding, if they're doing a Google search for which widget should I buy, they're finding someone that they trust saying good things about your company and your products. So sort of two ways to do that. One is to work with an influencer, and to find an influencer, hopefully you already have some idea of who are influential people in your industry, but otherwise a good thing to do is start monitoring and engaging and start seeing who people are retweeting or listening to. You can do some of that social monitoring to find who those influencers might be. And what you would, after you have the influencer identified, the two tactics that I employ are to have that influencer share your content or talk about your products on their own channels, either on their Twitter account, on their blog, or even if they're just sharing it on a product review site. But that is sort of they independently are going out and reaching out to their audiences with your messages. The other way, and something that I've done a lot of, is finding those influencers and bringing them in and having them write a blog post, for example, on our corporate-owned blog. And that really brings with it a lot of their credibility and associates it with our brand. And for them, it might give them a reach to a new audience that they hadn't had before. So either they sharing your content on their channels, or they coming to your channels and sharing their content there. Another thing that we think about is a little bit of a softer approach, and that's using brand ambassadors. So these are people who it might not be the same sort of paid relationship that you might have with an influencer, but instead it might be a group of people who you've defined as influential. So you're going to give them an extra level of support. So if you're onboarding them with a piece of software, you might have someone call up and walk them through getting started, because you know that they're going to talk about that experience later. You might give them access to behind the scenes information about how your products are developed, or access to brand new products. And by working with them, you want them to really, really love your brand and kind of go beyond just being somebody who gives you a positive product review, and somebody who you think really believes in your brand, really likes your products, and even when they're outside of tweeting for you or whatever it might be, they're going to share that with all of their different networks. So that's the idea of building a brand ambassador. And if you can find those people who really love your products and then treat them really, really well, that sort of starts to take care of itself. Finally, I should clarify that not only am I a social media marketer, I also am an attorney, which is kind of a weird combination. And as part of my governance and oversight role, means that a lot of times I am the destroyer of fun, because people want to do really cool, fun things in social media, and I have to tell them that no, you can't do that because it violates our privacy guidelines, or it violates, disclosure guidelines, or the Federal Trade Commission guidelines. So it's not my favorite part of the job, but it's something that I have to do, and something that you have to know about. I can't explain to you right now exactly what every rule that you would have to follow in terms of complying with Federal Trade Commission guidelines for using brand ambassadors and all those great ideas that I just talked about. But you always have to be honest. You always have to disclose that relationship. You never want a customer to think that someone is giving a completely spontaneous description of your product, like, wow, this is the best widget I've ever used, when in reality, you gave them 50 free widgets, and then they felt like they needed to say that for you. So it's important to know that there are rules, and you're responsible for knowing what they are. And above all else, always be honest, always be transparent. If there's any kind of marketing experiment that you're thinking about, or we're just going to do this as a test campaign, make sure that you feel like if all of your customers knew exactly what you were doing and what those relationships were, they would be okay with that, and they would feel good about it. That's not necessarily what the FTC guidelines say. They might be a little bit more detailed, but a good place to start. So that's the disclaimer. Our next video, we're going to talk generally about content promotion in social media and how we drive traffic to our websites, into our other demand generation efforts using social media. Thank you.